Thanks, Naz. Emma Wolfe, James Bubbles back for a final look through this morning's papers. Loads to crack on with. James, Times, page 7. Kids who do not speak English are lacking support from schools or getting confusing advice over whether to use their native language in the classroom.
Yeah, so I mean, this story is, on the one hand, it's about children who don't speak English as a first language not receiving support, but it's also about poor language skills across the board in foreign languages in schools. So, I mean, the story also says that only a quarter of state schools encourage language study at GCSEs. I mean, in this country, we do have historically a poor record of learning foreign languages, and that seems to start off in school, where foreign languages are not commonly taken up by students at GCSE level. And also we're having a problem now the problem in this report, it seems to say there's not a unified policy of whether kids should have to speak English in the school or it can be bilingual, or there's no unified approach. So different schools seem to be having different policies.
Which does seem a bit surprising.
Slightly separate point, but I was really impressed. I'm touring primary schools at the moment for my 3-year-old. I was really impressed. They will learn Spanish or French from the age of reception, from 4.
I'm very outspoken on this. I think we should be teaching our kids to speak, write, read English.
But a second language is also a great idea, yeah. And I think it's great that they're learning that from 4 in just regular, regular state schools.
I sound old-fashioned, but maths and English, reading and writing,
well, yeah,
arithmetic, the basics that I'm not against learning a foreign language, and certainly if kids who should be in this country, but I honestly think the very basics of education.
Well, I would prefer more books and basics and less online resources and screen time in schools, but that's just,
I'm sure. Should we look in The Guardian, Emma? People buying drugs, for pain or, well,
she's still in the Cirque du Soleil mindset.
People buying drugs for pain or anxiety online are at risk of buying deadly fakes. I mean, clearly you're going to have a heightened degree of suspicion when you're buying any type of medication online.
Yeah, but people are desperate. They can't get to see their GP. They can't get to see, they can't access drugs in the normal way.
Or difficulties in pharmacies, as we were talking about yesterday.
These are nitazines, which are these deadly drugs which have been implicated in deaths of heroin users. And they're actually being found in anti-anxiety drugs like Valium. They're being found in other things like diazepam, codeine, so simple pain relievers, and insomnia drugs. Yes. These are the people buying online are very different profiles to the average heroin user. So these are people who are just buying drugs for things like anxiety, insomnia.
There needs to be a big warning. Very quickly, years ago, did a television programme and ended up in those big yellow storage units in the centre of London, used by the Home Office, seized drugs brought into this country, fakes and no good, £600 million worth of these things that could basically do terrible things to you. I think people have to be really, really careful online, right?
Yeah,
massively.
Be careful where you buy your drugs. I mean,
if you just tuned in, James is not advocating. He doesn't mean
people use like diazepam, for example. Yeah. People are afraid of flying, for example. It's like an anxiety treatment, and I mean, you're really playing Russian roulette if you're buying them online with no prescription.
Absolutely.
Should we talk about American politics, James? Vivek drops out of the race. This was sort of news yesterday, and endorses Donald Trump. The Telegraph says this is embracing the inevitable. What are they expecting?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a kind of good way to put it. So Vivek Ramaswamy, who is the kind of libertarian candidate, although he shared lots of policy positions with Trump. So he's someone who's been very critical of Joe Biden's aid to Ukraine, for example. But he is kind of bowing to the inevitable. Trump easily won the primary in Iowa, and it seems very, very, unless he gets unless he is indicted and some of these...
No. I think if they drop all the charges, then he'll start to suffer. Every time they indict him, his popularity goes through the roof.
Absolutely. Trump voters
love it. He's more like... It might not affect him winning the primary. It'll affect whether he wins the actual election in November.
Do you think he will?
If you look at swing voters, he's much more popular now than if they say... If you ask them, if he has a criminal conviction, would you still vote for him? There's a huge drop-off in support then. OK, very interesting.
Emma, Mail. His online cooking videos have not been to everyone's taste. But now...
God preserve me.
As it says here, Brooklyn Backham is now cashing in on his culinary firm by opening his first... I honest to God,
which of them,
really?
Please?
Who gives a...
But which of the Beckham children was it that did the photography book of the terrible elephant?
Was that Cruz or was that Romeo? Or maybe it was Brooklyn.
That was Brooklyn as
God
well,
preserve
apparently.
me from celebrity children opening restaurants, launching their own fashion brands.
I really respect his father
really...
from where he's come, what he's done. I genuinely do, but shut
Completely
up.
different,
Brooklyn
yeah.
Beckham.
So he's
Honestly.
opening this pop-up near me in East London.
Nice.
It's going to be opening 2 days next week. So let's just pray that this is just a 2-day pop-up thing.
Why?
The point of pop-up.
What's actually wrong with it?
I can't stand it.
I think it's quite fun.
So this menu has been inspired by his global upbringing.
OK.
What does that mean?
Would you like to know one of his
Pampered,
specialties?
you mean?
Jeremy, would you like to know one of his specialties?
Vegan.
An English breakfast sandwich containing bacon, sausage and egg on white bread. Wow.
Well, it might
how
be quite
original.
popular in the
I mean, you
morning.
could get that in any cafe and probably not pay
I think
the sums for it.
I'm sort of with you. I know you're less cynical than us, but really, to have been pampered all your life and to think that anybody's going to come to your stupid... I'm sorry.
But if they don't
Really
come, then
ridiculous.
they have to close.
We'll just pop down.
Well, no, he won't have to close because Mummy and Daddy will be financing it. He has chicken tikka masala, pork and prawn dumplings and Brooklyn's secret hot sauce.
Brooklyn's, what? Do you know how he got his name?
I just can't be angry about this, tell me.
That's where his parents conceived him. Brooklyn,
Right.
America.
Is that
Thoughts
true?
on... Are you going to his
Yeah,
restaurant?
that's true. That's true.
No, I mean, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm angry about it, but he's only in that position because of who his parents are, and I don't think we should also fawn over him because of like these stories. I just think it's
What's
like, who
annoying,
cares?
Rosie, what's annoying is that there are people who've worked for years in the photography industry or worked for years in restaurants dreaming of opening their own place.
Dreaming of publicity like this.
Jay
Never
Starr,
get.
Okay.
common sense doesn't actually exist, experts say. They found that such logic, often claimed to be universal, is unique to each person. What does that mean?
So University of Pennsylvania Eggheads. It's a very Daily Star way to put it. They've said that, common sense is just something we basically project onto other people. It's to give our claims this kind of more factual air to them.
I don't agree with that at all. I think common sense is absolutely front and centre here at TalkTV, isn't it?
It varies culturally, common sense. There's some things that, like the world is round, that's common sense. That tends to be universal, but there are other things which are more culturally specific. So what we think is common sense, if you go somewhere else, they think that's completely not common sense. So
Well, they're wrong then, aren't they? Like cyclists are a pain in the backside. Common sense.
That's not common sense.
Yes, it is. Wolfie, come on.
Outrageous.
I just gave myself a terrible
What do you
paper
think is
cut.
common sense then?
Well, how to pronounce the subject in our next story, Emma. The Countdown host has finally settled the great scone or scone
Well, no, but
debate.
she hasn't. She really hasn't settled it
Susie
at all.
Dent?
Susie Dent completely lets us down here. She says both versions are fine. You can say scone, which is wrong, or you can say scone, which I say is right.
Common sense would say it's which
she
one?
said it's the most popular thing she gets asked at festivals, and everybody wants to know how to
It is
pronounce scone.
100% scone.
Isn't it scone?
Nobody's ever said scone.
I would think it's
Scone.
scone. but
What? Who do you think
Oh,
you
could
are?
you see that? You
It's gotta
see
be
the
from where you're
leftish-
from,
Who do
though.
you think you are? The
It's
Queen
got to
Mother?
be from where you're from, though.
No.
Where are
I
you
think
from?
Susie Dent must be so bored. If people ask this every single time,
Wow.
do you think, why am I having this debate again?
What do you call it?
I honestly don't know what I call it. I need to see it
face.
and
You
not
put your
be...
final very quickly. This is important. Jam or cream first?
Cream first, then the jam on top.
I don't eat them, but I'd put
don't
jam
eat
on if I had to. Jam
No,
first.
in what order, cream and jam? She's
Jam
right.
first.
Cream's got to be on the bottom.
The cream
and
is
jam.
like the butter, and then the jam goes
Absolutely.
on top.
Excellent.
Anyway,
Emma Wolf.
time's gone.
James
We
Bloodworth.
can't do any more. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for
Thanks,
being with
gang.
us this morning.